Hey everyone, welcome to Unique Ways with Thomas Gerard, an audio podcast. Got a really great guest on today. He's a virtual reality developer, an industrial designer, a UX designer, a web developer, and a CG artist. Please join me in welcoming Kushal Goenka. Welcome.
Hey, Thomas. Thanks for inviting me. And
Are you
yeah,
ready? Are you ready for 20 questions?
let's do it. I don't think I'm ready, but I'm definitely happy to get
Great.
into it.
Question one, tell me a little bit more about yourself. What do you do?
So yeah, I do a few different things. Primarily, I generally introduce myself as a software engineer, although that's not really a background that I have education-wise. Um, primarily that means like most of the things that I build uh, are computer based. So most of it involves writing software. Um, but oftentimes I lean towards a mix of art and technology from like when I was very young as well. And so it's kind of somewhere between a creative technologist, like if that's the word that I've heard before, and just like, a proper software engineering for production. Um, so that's kind of generally the space that I live. And over the course of the last many, many years, especially being in Vancouver and being surrounded by creative people in different domains, I've uh, come to love various different fields like VR and game dev and industrial design and just so much more. And AI these days in terms of being able to play and create very cool things.
Great. And just a note for the audience, if you guys are interested in the big 2025 episodes, please check out the episode with Kareem Rashid. That was a big one for us. Question two, what's a key piece of knowledge that makes you different?
Key piece of knowledge. Yeah, I mean, when you say like, for example, knowledge that makes me different, immediately it makes me think like lack of knowledge. Like to me, I think the thing that I am always mindful of on an everyday basis really is just like how much I don't know. And I think it's like a famous saying, right? Like the more you learn, the more you realize there's like a lot more to learn. And so I find just a constant awareness that there is a lot more to learn, and that in a beautiful way, like the world is kind of endless in that sense. That really is my defining sort of philosophy in most things. Uh, so that whenever I take on any project, take on any scope of any kind, or want to achieve something that I think is new or perhaps worth doing again, I find just the fact that there is so much to learn that I don't yet know is kind of freeing and kind of really inspiring. Well, I don't know if that's a sort of a sensible answer to that.
Yeah, no, that's great. So question three, why this of all things? Why do you do what you do?
Um, so I'll take in that case, let's say that this being, let's say I'm a freelancer. So I'm a freelance software engineer, I guess primarily. So why I do that more than anything else, perhaps. Uh, the primary reason for the nature of the way that I've organized my work and life is because I just really value uh, uh, just the freedom to be able to do my own projects. And so I found that the skill that afforded me that most was building software on a freelance level, because you can get hired for projects that have a sort of scope, you can finish them, etc., and you can get paid for them. So you can then focus on whatever else you've got going on for yourself
Mm.
on a perpetual basis, ongoing. While my background really also is film school, because I went to film school for that, and I find that never really afforded that kind of thing. And all the friends that I know, you had to go through this production industry pipeline, building your way up from, really sort of render wrangling and rotoscoping and all these other things. And I just found that the kind of work that was involved there would not satisfy me. Plus, it would take the kind of time that I didn't want to spend as like a core part of my day to day, because you get tired by the end of the evening and stuff. So I think primarily on a freelance sort of definition, I do it because I really value my freedom and my own time and to
Mm.
be creative. And on a software basis, it's because that particular industry allowed me the kind of opportunities that would have flexibility. And also I really just love playing with computers and building stuff and always learning what the latest thing is, etc. So, it's like being paid for doing something you enjoy.
Nice. Some people struggle with number four, but the question is, what does your future look like?
What does my well, I'm actually a very I don't know. I'm kind of strange. I find I don't really imagine the future, especially my own future, that much. Although I do care about the arc of humanity and stuff. I find I'm living much more on like the what's going on right now. What can I do right now better than what I have done before? Basis, and I think what I've set myself up for, and trying to always set myself up for, is like I said, just being able to afford the time and perhaps capacity to do things that are in various different domains together. So a lot of it is just like learning. So I want to always have enough time for learning. So that's always a goal. As in the future, will I be able to afford doing these things? Although I don't really focus on money very much. Funny enough. Or the other focus there is, I guess, just continue doing what I'm currently doing,
Hmm.
but not be trapped by some circumstance, finance or whatever else. So just always trying to just stay within the line, of being able to do what I'm already doing, because I really enjoy my day.
Great. So number five, we say is unique to this show. The question is, let's talk about location. How does the notion of place play into what you do?
Hmm. I mean, there's like so many ways to think about it, because in some ways like I would think of it as like very I don't really find myself like, even I'm always like living in my own head. So I'm not even in at my desk. Uh, so I feel like it's very sort of ephemeral in that sense in my brain about things that I do and who I'm paying attention to and the kind of work that inspires me, etc. But but it is a fact that I have been here in Vancouver, for example, for like the last almost 15 years, 14, 15 years, and so that has come to define me a lot in various ways. The biggest way being just the people that I surround myself with and keep running into, and just the city being a very creative city, and just so many different domains, the expertise that it invites or used to. I don't know. I have things, to say about the city, but certainly, I think that has been a key reason why I still stick around here, and why I got to try so many things. For example, at Emily Carr, when I used to study design and then majored in industrial design, I was really lucky to just meet the most wonderful people there, like on so many different levels, like who invited me to their spaces, invited me into projects that they were doing, and sort of just introduced me to things that I totally would not have any chance of being able to do because of money or whatever else. Like at the motion capture studio, PMP Lab, Sean Arden, and a few other people, Maria Lanton, etc., invited me to their studio and just allowed me to play with their $300,000 studio, and just build prototypes. And we used to have events and demo stuff. So that really introduced me to being able to work with something really specific hardware that I couldn't have afforded myself. And actually, at Remligar also, that's just like all up and down the sort of chain. My one of my favorite people there was the dean, Ron Burnett, who when I was elected on the Senate for a few years, like I would get to talk to once in a while, especially, and we would banter about a few things. So I found like everyone was very accessible and generally is in Vancouver. Like there is very little ego of that sort of level where you're unapproachable. And that I find really quite beautiful about the city. Like I know from people's stories that there are cities where you feel like you simply cannot approach people. I have never felt that way here. It seems that the creativity does not uh, come with a lack of humility. Uh,
Mm.
it comes together, and there's this very relaxed atmosphere in Vancouver. So it's not quite as deep, but certainly just the fact that it's so relaxed here, and people are willing to just share, and you can just approach anyone and just talk about, geek out about anything. I think it really makes me feel more free to do what I want to do, and allows me more forums to share.
Great, I love that. So number six, you're starting from the beginning. What advice do you give your former younger self?
Uh, uh, yeah, I mean, that one is like, what is the beginning? Like when I'm born, or when I like, maybe beginning of my career, maybe beginning of my schooling. There's so many ways to think about it. Like, I am not really someone who like, has or thinks of it in like a too many regrets kind of way. So I don't know that I would um I don't know that I would like be like, you know what, this is the point at which I would have loved to fork in that direction. I think maybe maybe there are times when I have not taken the chances that I should have taken. Mostly the chances that I am now taking, like in a ridiculous way. Just focusing on projects that I have in mind, and uh, letting the money chasing thing sort of fall to the side. I feel like there's been times. Also, I haven't been afforded the opportunity. I guess immigration and stuff. You just have to do things certain times. So it's like there's advice that I could give, like, hey, you know what, be more bold, or these are the things that you could have totally believed in yourself about, but perhaps you doubted. But when I look back, I feel like I've been probably overly confident in some of the choices that I've made. It's just that there were times that I simply wasn't afforded the options on the table to make one choice over the other. And so it doesn't matter what advice I gave myself, unless I simply don't play the game that I played, uh, I would still end up here.
Great. Seven, what's a day in your life like?
Hmm. That one's easy. So, because I live it every day. Uh, uh, Plus, especially because we are cross a lot as well. So, there's like a certain routine to my life these days, especially this year. But I find, I go to bed pretty late, so I wake up relatively late, and although not often getting that much sleep. And then just sort of think about what project or what part of which project I want to take on. Currently, they're all just my own projects, um, and so the biggest one being a this operating system thing that I'm building. And so just kind of like which features I want to tackle. If there's already a thread going on in the given week or the given day or the given month, then I'll obviously have that in mind and be sort of imagining that. And yeah, like I try and dwell on it for a bit as I wake up and go by my routine, so that by the time that I sit down, I often go to a cafe or something. Uh, by the time that I sit down, I'll have a decent amount of just urgency to implement the things that are, clouding up my mind. So that's kind of like my daily routine these days. And then I'll, leave the cafe or such in the evening and continue on working at whether at my friend's place or my own place or some other, you know, place in the city. Mostly it's just it's just that, and there's friends and dinners and uh, evening events once in a while.
Great. So you talked a bit about this, but number eight is around lifelong learning. So it's a popular topic. How do you stay up to date?
Hmm. I mean, how do I mean, I think it's everyone has their own strategy for this, right? And currently, especially one of the biggest ways that people do it perhaps is just like sort of leaning into the algorithms all around us that'll feed you information on what's up to date. I certainly find there's certain social channels where I will find just real-time information coming in that I find useful. But oftentimes, really, like it's just kind of like, so it depends on the domain, right? Like for example, here's in the narrow scope of AI and ML, I really find one of the best things that I've done over the last couple of years is I go to this reading group. This It's a data science reading group in Vancouver. Happens every other week at Northeastern, and that really has been a great sort of consistent forum where I can be surrounded by people much smarter than myself, who are in ML and data science fields, discussing papers. So we basically read papers being published in the last few years and so on, oftentimes new papers. And that gives me the ability to really, on a much deeper level, understand why these developments mean something, uh, how I can benefit from them, how I can use them, how I could perhaps even contribute if I see things that I want to criticize about the work that is done. There is so that's one vector of trying to stay up to date. Another is just like building like my general senses. Maybe when I was younger, I used to watch a lot of like video courses and stuff. I can't read for shit, so I just watch a lot of video, uh, kind of educational content. But I feel like in the last long time, I really have always prioritized building at first, which just takes longer fundamentally, but it's a lot more enjoyable as well, except for all the debugging perhaps sometimes. But that really gets me a real muscle for the thing that I am trying to learn, trying to keep up to date with. And so as new things come in the last 2 years, for example, as each new paper, each new idea around search, around yeah, like information retrieval, ML training, etc., comes out, I try and build prototypes. Often also as a mechanism to try and explain to others. Because then I sort of, if I have a nice enough understanding of it myself, then I can then turn it into a short talk or something and introduce it to people. So it's kind of like yeah, there's like a various different things that I try and do. Most of it right now is just like play with it. Just play with it, and you'll get inspired about things that like you want to learn.
Great. So number nine is about tools. Do you use just digital tools?
Um, let's see. I mean, I do carry around a pen and paper, so I do like.
Hmm.
Although it's mostly doodling, so like I don't know. It's oftentimes it's almost like I build like a notes app thing. Like I don't know, it's seventh, eighth version of it. Every month I keep updating it or building a new one on my laptop and my phone and so on. So there's like a whole AI transcription and annotation, all this other stuff going on there. But and so I do like speech as a modality in the last few years, especially ever since the Whisper model dropped and a few other things. Because it's real time, I can really be a lot higher resolution in what I'm trying to say. But then oftentimes, especially if I have a blank slate mind, or just I get into a non-zone, I'm sitting there and I'm getting distracted and doom scrolling or something. I do find just pulling out a piece of paper or something and just completely bullshitting for like a few, minutes or more. I feel like gets me out of there. Also, sometimes like especially I'm a visual guy. Like I really most of the things that I work on, like I love UIs, I love futuristic user interfaces. I love VR. My VR project, I did build like a 3D modeling software in VR. Didn't finish it. I'm kind of working on it now again. That was very much about like novel user experiences, novel user interfaces in VR. So I've over the years I've definitely realized that there's things that I simply cannot type, and I also don't carry around a tablet anymore. So it's mostly going to be pen and paper for drawing. So usually because of the resolution of information that I need to get out of my brain on paper, I have to use pen and paper for that. But I am actively building tools for thought, if you will, that are digital. And I am very digital for sure. Like most everything else I do is all on my computer.
Great. Halfway number 10, work-life balance, life-work balance. How do you deal with it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say I'm probably not the best at it. Definitely have always like as a center of my mind, generally it's the next whatever project I have going on or the current project that I have going on, it just completely saturates all moments, including sleeping, dreaming, everything. But I do think like a few people close to me, like that's always been like my general sense is like there'll be close friends and just people close to you who you will spend a lot of time with on a daily basis, and that kind of is what enriches generally and makes it more rounded in my life. And so I think just like dinners with friends and spending quality time whenever you're not working is kind of like where I feel like, okay, I'm living a bit more of a balanced life. I don't actively necessarily go out of my way to think like, oh, I gotta like pause work and do something. It's not really, I just let it happen. I try, I'm a very non-rules kind of guy. Like, I don't try to put any kind of restrictions on myself. So it just comes. And, uh, and I generally try and be very responsive to anyone on a human level than like a computer asking me to do something like notifications or something. So that's kind of the work-life balance.
Great. Number 11, if you weren't doing what you do now, what might you be doing?
Hmm. If I wasn't, I mean, okay, so I generally enjoy what I'm doing, minus the lack of that much money coming in. But again, this is why I do it because I really hate money, or just least having to make it. I feel like the when you say like when you say that question, the thing that comes to mind is that I've always loved architecture. And when I was a kid, like I did consider at some point, like, oh, it would be nice to be an architect. A lot of the work that I did after in game dev in the film industry, sort of like I mean film school education and uh, just various other modalities, VR, etc. Like it's always been uh, like kind of architecture, like building fake environments, etc. So, and I was an environment artist, if you will, when I was graduating. So I feel like that is a domain that I would have loved to go in, but I think I found it to be too not rules based, but like just too rigid. And I my perception was that how could you ever really get a real building built? Like maybe like if you really want to be on the level where you get to do grand projects, it would be a whole climb. Like you would really have to perhaps please some people. You would have to like just like make compromises that uh, I am just not great at making. And so I feel like what I'm doing currently affords me more of like my philosophy and just kind of not really having to uh, make compromises that I don't want to make. But otherwise, architecture has been my one of my favorite things over the years, and I would have loved to just somehow got lucky and perhaps meet people like that Armando and like perhaps even work in that kind of capacity of uh, the people that get to do cool projects.
Great. And 12, what would you not like to do with your career?
Um, no internet. I mean, so what wood is like basically equivalent to what I'm not doing right now, uh, which is like just like busy work and like a lot of corporate stuff. So many people that I know who I know are quite talented just end up getting jobs at like big tech because there's a crazy amount of money in there. Like I just have never been drawn to it. I have actively kind of avoided it always, at the expense of not owning a house and stuff. But I feel like that is not satisfactory to me, and also is I'm very sort of political person. I find I take everything to heart. Like I care about the arc of humanity and stuff, and or the arc of history and stuff. So it feels very. It just doesn't feel right to get into a space that at best is pointless work, and at worst is a contribution to basically the detriment of the world. So I generally try and avoid getting becoming part of the machine, if you will. But I'm it's like a constant struggle, right? Like it's always a struggle. So I would like not to do that. I would like to continue not doing that as I have thus far. I guess is the idea.
Great. So 13, do you have a favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Hmm. Uh, in this moment, I can think of one that I quoted recently. I was giving a talk and explaining natural language processing and how large language models work. And this is a code that I just love. It's by Carl Sagan. It's like if you wish to make an apple pie, you must first invent the universe. And it's a very beautiful quote. I think he said it first in Cosmos, his TV series. I often see it as like this fact that whenever I have this general instinct to just build everything myself, all tools, I build all my tools, like as much as possible, including my own IDE for software, including my own uh, design tools, etc. So I often find like, and I would love to make my own computer, I would love to make my own phone hardware and stuff, but there's limitations. So I always find this as like almost a funny challenge to whenever I get into that zone of thinking, like, hey, you know what? I would actually love to not just do operating system on a HCI level, but also on a, kernel processing level, because I think these designs are wrong and these ones are better. So it's kind of funny to me where like, yeah, like you truly do have to invent the universe if you want to do things the way you want them to be completely from scratch. And so you have to at some point make a compromise and say, you know what, for now, I want to get to this goal. And uh, in order to get to this goal, I will have to start from a point that is not the absolute beginning, making your own silicon. So yeah, that's kind of something that I like.
Great. And how about a least favorite word, quote, or sentence?
Yeah, I do love language in general. Like I find I'm very drawn to just poetic phrases and just like words that I learn and so on. Um, maybe uh like I think it's like there's vibes. There's just vibes that I don't like kind of a like go along to get along type thing. So I'm not really a fan of like that way of thinking, but I don't know if it's a quote or a phrase. It's just that kind of thing. I don't like it. Like if you should have some philosophies. You should like figure out what you want, and then you should live that person, as opposed to sort of being very kind of flimsy and just like uh, making concessions at every point kind of thing. So maybe that's the answer.
Okay. And you're choosing one word to describe yourself. What word do you choose?
Uh, uh, I say trying. I don't know. I'm just trying.
What keeps you
That's
up at night?
hmm. On a real sense, these days it's just like I'm not making enough progress on what I want to do. So it's just like, come on, please, you can do faster. And so like it's just mostly like, yeah, how can I just somehow be better, be a better version of myself to get to the goals that I want faster. But on a larger sense, I think I talk about these things a lot in the forums that I'm afforded, but I really care. I've really been concerned for a long time about just like society in general becoming very closed, sort of tyrannical, all these different ways to define it. But on a narrow level, for example, the internet becoming a lot more closed. I'm grateful that I got to experience the internet, at least part of my life, when it was a lot more free, when it was a lot more open, and there was a lot more conversations and knowledge sharing happening in a way that was accessible. But in the last while, it has become so, in the last many, many years, not only has that knowledge sharing been curbed because of the internet getting completely privatized, but also it has various consequences on politics. People not being able to discuss ideas, a lot more tribalism. You know, just information, uh, lack of information, turning into like an easy way to simply make people believe anything you need them to believe. So that kind of stuff, just like whenever I see any new development on these fronts, which is generally every day, some player making a move, I get kind of quite upset about it. So yeah, it keeps me up.
Great. And do you have a dream you're chasing?
Currently, like the project that I'm working on, the is sort of personal operating system. You can think of it as a Jarvis. And that kind of is like a really big one. I've been working on this for the last 10 plus years, really. Like at the earlier stage, it was personal assistant for management of just various different things that I was doing, code bases, tasks, calendars, etc. Then it became, or at least part of it became, a large part of my VR design tool that I was building, as a way of being an assistant in that space, in spatial, um, that is able to guide you and augment your abilities. The project was called Augmented Design. This is like an old video about it on YouTube. Um, but then in the last while, especially with NLP advances in the open source world, where you could download these models and run them offline and so on, I really started to enjoy. I really started to see the possibilities of taking it to a next level in terms of how intuitive HCI could be. So I feel like no, I feel like I've completely been dedicating a lot of time on that. So I think like around 8 months or 9 months ago, I really kind of almost completely paused looking for new clients, and just also because the market is shit right now. But I said, just completely focus on building this. Just build your tooling, just build each of these bits, do it robustly, do it the way that you actually want to do, without separating time for anything in the given day. And so it's just like, just so many pieces to it, whether it is the ability for this system to, intelligently do the things that I am asking for, whether it is the just knowledge warehousing of everything that I know, everything that I have done, and being able to have it on the tips of my hand whenever I need it. I have like a few interfaces for this system, one being my phone and the other being my laptop currently being used most. So yeah, this is the big sort of current dream, just trying to, and it is in production in the sense that, it's, as I build it, I use it every day. But that's kind of currently the big dream. It's just actually building this tooling so that I genuinely start to use it. Because like each year, what happens is I'll build them in pieces, and some of the pieces I'll keep using across throughout the year, and the other pieces will just fade away into code bases that I never look at. So I'm trying really hard this time to do it correctly so that it lasts.
Great. And final stretch here. What inspires you?
Um, so I think what I can't really think of, I think who I can address, like there is a lot of people that I have come across in the last many years. And on a human level, the fact that they simply had a vision and they simply had just, like, I should do this. It doesn't matter how hard, doesn't matter how dumb, it's worth trying. I've seen people, be able to implement very cool ideas on that. And so those people inspire me. There's this one that I don't know why it's coming to my mind right now, but Ken Perlin from NYU, this professor, he created Perlin noise. If you're familiar with Perlin noise, you may have used it in some context. It's like a pseudo random noise useful for various things. But he also like I think I got a chance to meet him quite a few times and perhaps a little bit collaborate. Um, 10 years ago, and he was building at the time this tool called Chalk Talk. And it was like Chalk Talk was like this basically interface that he would use as he would give presentations. And basically, it was like he would draw on this scratchboard, and the thing that he would draw would come to life. In some sense of the word. So, like, he would draw an equation and it would sort of start animating, or he would draw sort of an approximation of a bird and it would start flying around the canvas. And I was like, this is so much the kind of thing that I want to do, where communication is augmented by the medium that you're using, not hindered. And so I have always, whenever I give talks, I always do real time interactive stuff. And that is one person that always inspired me, because this is like, he just used JavaScript tooling to build all of this. Another person that I really find inspiring is Brett Victor. He's given a few talks that are just cutting, like they're really like just precise at what they're trying to say. And he's a really good communicator. And his idea of immediate connection with what you're creating has always really been very core to my own work. So I think, yeah, I just find like, while I don't actively do watch a lot of videos and lectures and stuff these days around people's, manifestos and how they're doing things, at least back when I was a lot more actively seeking these out, uh, at least these are two people that really left an impact.
Great. And last couple here. Any advice you'd like to share?
Uh, yeah, it really depends on what. Like, I once in a while will, be happy to tell people how to learn software engineering or web dev, or get into a specific uh, domain or a piece of software. But I have not figured out anything. I am literally, just trying here, and haven't really accomplished anything. So I generally have no intelligent advice to give. Just, yeah, maybe what you're doing, which is the opposite of what I'm doing, is probably the smarter thing.
Great. And finally, number 20. How can our listeners keep tabs on you, and what's our call to action?
Yeah, so I definitely can talk about things that I'm doing right now. I just gave a mini talk about the history of search, and like the evolution of how search algorithms, etc., have uh, come to be, and half of it is kind of a rant on like why it all sucks still. Like, Google is absolutely bad currently, and the reasons behind it. So that was a really fun time. It was like during Web Summit, and so I just put together the video yesterday and uploaded it on my YouTube. So maybe I'll send you the link or something. You can link it. But basically, that will be a great place to check out currently the latest sort of thing that I'm thinking about, and I'm evolving right now in that short talk into a longer, much more detailed history of search and kind of how to do it well um, in the coming months, depending on who gives me a good venue to present that, and a long enough time. I really don't like being cut short. So yeah, like that's kind of like the best place to go. My YouTube channel, I have a bunch of different mini lectures and lectures on how natural language processing works and just generally understanding some of the current technologies. And beyond that, yeah, like check out my website. It's some very old work there. If you have I guess the call to action would be like I'm always looking for freelance projects. I'm a contractor basically. I build software, I do design. I can do full kind of architecture, design, development, delivery, maintenance, which is generally how I've done things. So I think if anyone has projects in their mind, especially having to do with AI these days, but also just VR and so on in general, then please reach out. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining today. We Kushal and I go to the same neighborhood coffee shop, so
Yeah.
we see each other. So super cool to have you on in this format. Thanks so much for joining.
Yeah. Probably see you in like a few minutes over there.
Okay.
Bye.